Today, it's the 30th anniversary of a famous Japanese video game with a blue-clad, spiky-haired protagonist. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. We're the friends you need in a world gone mad.
Rock solid, reliable, the kind of friends you can depend on through thick and thin.
Except neither of us can make it to D&D this Saturday.
And we don't own a truck. Beloved Super Nintendo role-playing game Chrono Trigger celebrates its 30th birthday this month, and longtime fans are throwing their backs out with nostalgia. The game was a dream project that involved partnership from Yuji Horii from Dragon Quest, Akira Toriyama from Dragon Ball, and Hironobu Sakaguchi from Final Fantasy, with Yasunori Mitsuda composing music, with a little help from Nobuo Uematsu. What a team! A supergroup, like the Traveling Wilburys, or, because sometimes kids watch this, imagine if Blackpink and BTS suddenly had to put a hit single together for charity. Superband saves sad children. Now imagine it's the 90s and you're making a video game instead. The sad kids are in the video game now. Square Enix announced on Twitter that they plan to honor the occasion with various projects throughout the year that will take us beyond the world of the game. So far, we only know of 2 events, a limited time discount on the iOS and Android ports, and an official live stream of the game's music on YouTube happening tomorrow, March 14th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific. Not on this channel. Somewhere else. Now, while March 11th, 1995 was the initial release of Chrono Trigger in Japan, the game wasn't released in the US until August of the same year, so perhaps this second red letter date in Trigger chronology will arrive with some offerings from Square Enix. There's been no announcement about this, but fans would love a remaster and re-release for modern consoles. We mentioned Super Nintendo and mobile, but besides that, the only other releases of the game have been for the original PlayStation in 1999, Nintendo DS in 2008, and then on Steam in 2018, completely ignoring any Nintendo flagship console, even though it had been out for a year by the time that PC release dropped. And sure, a new release of Chrono Trigger could be tasteful and appreciated, but I'd like to take this moment to pine for a different project that takes us beyond the world of the game. Square Enix, with all your wondrous power of the mastery of time from one end to another, and with no fear of the entity known as Lavos, could you find within yourself the courage to heal the timeline we currently reside within? The forces of darkness close in upon us, and only you have access to the time portals thanks to Princess Nadia's amulet. Save us from the cruel fate this reality insists upon. Either that or frog plushies, please.
Might be time to transfer your mons to Pokemon Home, as developer Niantic have sold the juggernaut mobile game Pokemon Go, as well as their other titles, Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter Now, to Saudi Arabia. At least that's how it's being reported. Technically, Niantic sold the games and the staff working on them to mobile publisher Scopely, who are wholly owned by Savvy Games, who are themselves owned by the Saudi government's public investment fund. So yeah, they did sell Pokemon Go to Saudi Arabia. For $3.5 billion, by the way. In Savvy's press release, they describe Scopely as, quote, the #1 mobile game company in the United States. And you would too in your own press release, but I don't know what metric they're working from to say #1 mobile game company. Though they are responsible for Monopoly Go, which apparently made $3 billion in a year just by itself, and that feels weird for a game originally created to illustrate the negative impacts of wealth consolidation. As 404 Media noted, none of the breathless blog posts about teaming up and partnering with address what will happen to player location data. Scopely told 404 that all that AR scanning data will go directly to Niantic's new AI mapping spin-off company, Niantic Spatial, of whom Scopely is also a major investor. Scopely further assured 404 that they're only going to keep the data for legitimate purposes. Lucky for them, they get to decide what's a legitimate purpose.
If you're like me, you're getting older at the rate of 1 second per second, and that means you're slowing down. Reflexes are getting worse. Hand-eye coordination is no longer surgical grade. You're a goddamn mess. And that explains why every time you play Super Mario World these days, you're just bad at it. Not so, say speedrunning scientists. It turns out that as Super Nintendo consoles get older, they actually start running faster. TaskBot recently went to the web asking for Super Nintendo console owners to run a utility on their hardware, and lo and behold, clock signals were coming back between 8 and 217 hertz faster than they would have at launch, meaning that you're not getting old and decrepit. It's the consoles who are wrong. Except that this survey isn't studying the CPU. The CPU uses a quartz crystal, meaning its clock speed of 21 megahertz is locked in. The audio processing unit, on the other hand, uses a ceramic resonator, meaning that its 24.576 megahertz clock rate is prone to wild variations, like me when I write stories for CheckPoint. What's worse, the 200 hertz variance is really only present once the audio DSP warms up, and it varies from console to console, so there's no way of knowing if you're affected, and that means you'll have to suffer a slight variation in the pitch of audio playback. That's right, if you're like me, you're an aging band geek and you remember what it was like playing next to another saxophone who hadn't tuned up yet. Fortunately, your SNES is a one-person ensemble, so it'll just be in tune with itself. Songs may sound a tiny bit higher pitched, but hey, if you're like me, your hearing acuity has already changed and you probably can't remember what the hell it sounded like to begin with.
Yesterday, a video was leaked to The Verge of Horizon's Aloy having a conversation with Sharwin Raghobardajal, a director of software engineering at Sony Interactive Entertainment. The catch, of course, was that Aloy's responses were all generated by AI. The words, the animations, and even the voice. We'd love to show it to you, but we'd also like this week's Checkpoint to stay online, and Sony's done a scorched earth job of copyright striking that video from every service possible. So you'll just have to trust me, who did watch it before it got pulled down. Wow, was it ever ass. Just utter dog water of a video. Because it's just an early test. So while it doesn't show off consumer-ready tech, it does prove that Sony are actively pursuing this. And this comes as actors union SAG-AFTRA is still trying to negotiate for protections against AI for its members, with its latest update on March 11th saying, quote, "The last proposal the bargaining group made is still filled with alarming loopholes that will leave our members vulnerable to AI abuse." And SAG explains that abuse could be gaming companies creating a digital replica of an actor, using it however they want, as much as they want, and not even being obligated to tell the actor what tragically worded quest dialogue it was used for, let alone pay them for it. Companies are absolutely randy to replace human actors. And speaking of randy, earlier this week, Zenless Zone Zero lost 2 of its voice actors who had refused to work unless HoYoverse signed an interim SAG agreement, and they found out they'd been replaced the same way their fans did, by reading the patch notes. I know sometimes we may appear cynical to you, but consider what you know about video game companies and how they've been handling other aspects of their business. Right now, AI character performance is very bad. When they finally roll it out in games, it will still be bad. It will, however, be just good enough that they think you'll let them get away with it.
Good news, I got a line on a truck.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've got a guy with a 1-ton and insurance, but we have to help him move a giant mirror first.
That's awfully specific.
Comedy usually is.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds good. When's he free?
Only during D&D. Coming up, alongside the Terminator T-1000, Mortal Kombat's next expansion is preparing to unleash its most brutal character yet, a small Chinese grandmother with a slipper. Thankfully, Madame Bo's terrible power is limited to only giving assistance as a cameo fighter. If she were allowed to participate in the Mortal Kombat tournament, Outworld would surely be doomed.
Nice.
Did it in one. You'll never know. I mean, they will. Heather is going to just dump a ton of outtakes in here.
None of the breathless bog posts. Damn it.
Posts.
Bog posts. Yeah.
Songs may sign? Songs may sign.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I had something like tickling my nose the whole time.
The worst.
And I was like, I'm going to make it through this and feel so good about myself. And nope, I did not make it through it.
Now you only feel okay about yourself.
I'm a goddamn mess. Your hewing acuity has already changed.
No.
Your hewing acuity, what the...
I didn't mean to make that noise. I'm sorry. We should do that again.
Okay. If she were allowed to participate in the Mortal Kombat tournament, Outworld would surely be doomed.
You said terminant.
Yeah, you did. But
Yeah,
it was really good delivery, though.
One more time.
Terminant. I realize now that I said, like, that Zenless Zone Zero, like, lost 2 of his voice actors. It fired them, and they didn't find out until they read the patch notes, I guess.
Unceremoniously, yeah.
Yeah.
Just dumped them to the goddamn curb.
Yeah, thankfully they didn't find it out from us reading the patch notes in a new edition of Reading the Patch Notes. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
That makes me so sad. That kind of like, I mean...
Yeah, they're apparently, like, really surprised and hurt, and I would be.
Yeah.
They're like, we hadn't heard from them in a while, but we enjoyed doing the work that we'd been doing.
We just want them to say that you won't train our voices so that you can just make us say whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's all
and
we
they
want.
So the context on that is that, of course, SAG is they're still like the most of the actor strike is done, but like the voice actor stuff is still going, and there is like struck work. But if you already had a gig from before that happened, you can keep doing it.
Right.
It's not struck work. And so the people were still working for Hoyoverse and doing stuff for Zenless Zone Zero. But these actors voluntarily were like, but we don't want to keep doing that unless you can sign this interim SAG agreement.
Yeah.
With the presumption that this will be the agreement that will be in place once the negotiations are over with.
Yeah.
So it's, we're just sort of getting ahead of it and sorting it out now. And they were like, nope.
But it's
we're
like
just going to fire you in the patch notes.
Yeah, it's like the attitude of rather than coming back and saying that's not acceptable to us and we're letting you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could have just been like, we're not going to do that. We will if you're not willing to do the work, like if you're not willing to continue voicing this role, then we will replace you with someone. Then we are replacing you with somebody else. Like not even a thing of we're going to come back and say whatever. They're just like, oh, you don't want to do this? Okay. And they're just like, I guess they're not working for us anymore. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll get other voice actors and we'll do whatever. And we'll just, and like dump them on the side of the road. It's like, we used you up for everything we need you for, and we'll just get rid of you and replace you with somebody else. There's thousands of VAs out there who are willing to do the work because you're not willing to do the work. And they want their shot to get into the industry. So they're going to take that opportunity. And and it won't matter because when they're upset, when they've had a career for like 10 years and they're mad that somebody's using AI for their voice, we'll dump them too and we'll pick somebody else up and do it. And I'm like, this has a terrible effect on everybody.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not cross a picket line. I get that when you really need to eat, but still it's going to be hard on everybody.
My sort of end of that story, I realized as I was writing it, which was that, like, if you look at how like flaky some aspects of dev are when like a game comes out and like stuff just isn't done yet, and they're like, but we'll patch it, like, or they don't, right? And they're just like, this is as good as the game is going to be, but you'll lap it up. What are you going to do? Not buy it, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I realized it's like they're going to try and put this in video games, and by the time they're going to get the AI performance to a level that they're comfortable going, this will be fine.
Yeah.
The gamers will be fine with this. It won't be good. It'll be to a level that the shareholders are like, ship the game now.
Yeah.
And that will be awful.
It's
why we need to bully them now.
It's the doctrine of horse armor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we did this thing and everybody hated the idea of it. And then the more we changed and structured and moved all these things, and the more we moved the window, eventually we just got you to a point where it's like, we're fine with all of our games being AI generated, not being made by why would you need to pay a whole team to do it? We'll pay your god awful games and that are just rehashes of other stuff that we've already seen and that doesn't make any sense, that has Crash Bandicoot as like some sort of weird rat weasel. And it's like, sure, why not? I guess that's what's going to happen.
Thanks to Nelson for writing the Chrono Trigger story.
Yes.
We Beej and I respectively wrote the other things that we said with our faces. But when I was in our document where we're doing the writing, there was the quote of like, we will be recognizing this anniversary with various projects. And I was like, what the F does that mean?
Yeah.
And Nelson was like, exactly. And I'm like, okay, well, it's coming up soon, so I hope you know.
Yeah, also it's like a project of we put a sale on. I'm like, that's not a project. That's just a thing you did.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're going to do a live stream with the game's music. I'm like, I guess I hope it's an orchestra. Like, I hope it's something that seems
I hope
prepared,
so too. It's going to be like lo-fi Chrono Trigger beats to watch a stream to.
It's just Chrono like studying.
That would be at least something original added to it would be at least kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It can't just do a remake or something. Do like a remaster.
Announce a sequel.
That would be,
yeah. Or like,
what happens after Chrono Cross? Come on.
But like, or even like Final Fantasy VII, where it's like, what if we redid the story and we changed some elements of it? So it is still Chrono Trigger, but now the elements have changed to make it slightly different. But that also, Chrono Trigger, if I understand correctly, had to be a supergroup because it was complicated for them to figure out the whole thing. Like it was like, this was a big game and it was hard for them to make. It's how I understand its development.
Did you ever play Chrono Cross?
No.
It was really good.
Oh, good.
It was weird though, because the big selling point, apart from it being like an indirect or direct spoilers sequel, was there like 100 playable characters. Like the number of NPCs you could recruit to party members was preposterous. And there were a couple that were like at certain branch points in the game, you can get this one or this one, this one or this one. And so you would have to play the game twice through
to get
all the characters. Except for the family that had 3 members, and you could only get one of them. So only for one character would you, if you wanted to get all the characters in your party, you had to play the game thrice, just because there was one branch that had 3 options of which character you took.
I mean, other than the fact this was
didn't do that
on the PlayStation platform. The other reason I wouldn't have played it is that.
That was frustrating. But the game was fun. If you don't care about that, if you don't, some people did. More power to you. I only played it once, but it was very fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I don't know where else I was going with that. Hey, everything we do here at Loading Ready Run, by the way, is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, and also by becoming a member on this YouTube channel.
You can also check out the store at store.loadingreadyrun.com. And thank you also to all those people who support the YouTube channel, because your names are coming up here very, very quick.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.